Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Provinciën. This Dockyard ship is actually back and available for purchase. And that's something we don't see very often with these Dockyard ships. One of the unfortunate sides of Dockyards is that they're only available for a limited time, those fear of missing out mechanics. And then they're gone. I suppose it's only Puerto Rico we've seen come back, although that is, I think, less to do with wanting to bring the ship back and more with how that initial Dockyard was handled. But to see a Dockyard ship come back is very interesting, so we got to talk about it. It comes alongside this new Dutch commander, of course, who is incredible on a lot of these Dutch ships, with airstrikes especially, but also just the nice damage buffs you get every 50,000 damage you deal, up to 3 stacks. It's a very good commander. We took a look at that last week, but today we have to talk about this Dockyard ship. It's available in containers, of course. No direct purchase, unfortunately. That's what I was hoping for. I was really excited to see it coming back, this update, and unfortunately, it's locked in loot boxes. And not just that, it's available as a 1% drop in these finest hour premium containers, which will give you some of the collection pieces to gain the commander if you haven't got him through the free containers already. That's available through the adventure. That's a totally separate thing. These are just available for doubloons. The ship, unfortunately, is a 1% drop, and it's only guaranteed after 150 misses, which is a lot when those containers cost 1,250 doubloons. If you buy the largest pack, they're around 1,000 doubloons. So in total, if you're unlucky, which I have to assume, I can't just assume you're going to get it within the first few boxes. When does Wargaming guarantee you get this Provinciën? That's what I have to evaluate it on. And they guarantee it after 150 drops, which is 150,000 doubloons. Now, depending on how your currency looks, if you're in Canada, for example, that's over $750 to guarantee you get this thing. That ain't cheap. That ain't cheap. US dollars, like $550 or so. It is very, very expensive. I'm rather disappointed in the way Wargaming's handled this one as well. It is a ship that I think a lot of people are interested in, especially now that we have these Dutch light cruisers back. Provinciën is an interesting alternative example. This ship has much more range on these airstrikes than the Yarsveld, as well as having those 150mm guns, or 152s maybe, instead of the destroyer caliber guns. It's an interesting change that we see on this thing, as well as having just better armor overall. It's just a little bit tankier. The AA is a little bit better. You get up to 3 airstrike charges as well. The downside being the planes die a little bit quicker here, and you certainly don't have as many bombs per plane. So you're going to notice that some of these drops, we're going to lose a lot of our planes and not really hit that many bombs. But Provinciën has very, very good guns. This is a fun ship to play from time to time. I don't play it very often, but it is a very interesting ship. And I'd actually like to shout out a fellow community contributor for this game right now, Maltese Knight. Dived with him in the past before, always a fun time. And he had an absolutely insane game in Provinciën. If you want to see this ship and its potential in all its glory with this new special commander, he's got an excellent game up on his YouTube channel. I'll link that down below, as well as at the end of this video. Definitely go check it out. Malta's awesome. You'll really enjoy his content, I'm sure. So a good ship to come back. I wish more of these Dockyard ships would come back. It's just unfortunate the way Wargaming is monetizing things these days, as we've seen with the Inchin Wishing Wharf event. However, just today, as I'm recording this a couple hours ago, Wargaming has actually responded to a lot of our criticism over the Waterline event, as well as recent monetization events, specifically Wishing Wharf. And there's some action here. This isn't just lip service. They are actively changing the way forward here, specifically around the Wishing Wharf next update. If you weren't happy with it, with Inchin, well, there were a couple more premiums that were coming in, a tier 9 and a tier 10 ship in another Wishing Wharf in the next update, 14.2. I was very worried about that. I'm glad they have decided to change that. Who knows what they come up with as an alternative method to receive those ships, but it is nice to see Wargaming taking our complaints as well as our feedback and having a bit of action here. This isn't just a lip service statement, right? I think that wouldn't go over too well. There's some action here that they're actively changing based on the feedback we've given. So really good to see that. Really happy to end the week like this. In fact, I'm rather impressed with how fast they came back with this, given how short a time it's been since the actual waterline, at least when I'm recording this video. It is Friday still. This video won't go up until Monday, of course. But at the time of recording, I'm pretty happy with the turnaround here. I'm overall someone who is very, very happy that Wargaming typically isn't making very snap decisions where very, very quickly are they changing their game, changing their direction. I think it's good to take time to think about and critically examine what you're doing before changing course. But I'm equally glad to see them at least coming out and saying they see our feedback and are taking a small direct action as a result. This quickly. Just a couple days, like 2.5 days since that waterline video dropped. It's nice to see. We'll see how that actually plays out, though. Giving Wargaming a bit of the benefit of the doubt here. I know others may not, but I'm willing to give it here. I hope the changed direction is a good one. I'm excited to see what they come up with. But back to the Provincian. This is a good ship. It really is. A lot of these Dockyard ships are quite interesting. Now that the new Dutch light cruisers are in the game, though, given the price of Provinciën as well, I'd recommend not. It does play very, very similarly to those Dutch light cruisers, and maybe a little more focused on the main guns, in fact, than at least the Tier 8 light cruiser. In this case, the 152s are very, very nice here. Once we get up into the higher tiers, we also notice the extra damage output from those bombers, right? The Provinciën here, it only has 24 bombs per squadron, where if we go to the Tier 8 tech tree ship now, it gets up to 30, which is also the same as the Tier 9 tech tree ship. And then with the Tier 10, the Utrecht, that gets a jump in consistency again because we get 35 bombs per drop. And even losing one plane isn't as big a deal because you get one extra plane. That's how you get more bombs in that squadron. So Provinciën, a little bit more focused on those main guns. Nice little double strike there. Luckily, the fire burnt out on that Tirpitz. And a pretty solid game, I suppose. Not too impressive or anything, but Provinciën can do quite well in a lot of these Tier 8 games. Into Tier 10, I think it will struggle a little bit more. Though, as a Tier 8 ship with a heel, especially a cruiser with a heel, the ship is a little bit more comfortable in those situations. Probably the ideal target here, a lower tier carrier, does not have that armored flight deck and just absolutely insane damage output on those bombs. It is harder to lead, though, I will say, compared to those tech tree Dutch ships as well, since they do not have as long a lead time here. We have a 15-second lead time on these airstrikes with a smaller box. It's slightly smaller, so harder to lead even more. Where when it comes to the tech tree ships, it's like 13 and a half seconds. So you get a 1.5 to 2 seconds sooner drop on the tech tree. Yarshfelt there on this game, sending his planes, as we can see, as well as a slightly bigger box with to accommodate that higher density of bombs. Not very many hits there on that Bismarck, and that's because there's actually 2 Yarshvelts on the enemy's team on this flank. You're going to notice our planes get shot down rather quickly. Anytime you're dropping these planes into clumped up enemies, you're less likely to get as many on target. We get a couple in that case. And I found myself having a little bit of a tough time proccing that extra airstrike on 50 bomb hits with this special commander, at least with this ship. I think it's best used on the Utrecht, to be honest with you. Maybe Tromp, given the density of bombs there and relatively quick reload still. But Utrecht has the combination of insane reload and just more bomb density on target with a much easier to lead bomb drop. So this special commander, very, very powerful, but I also found that the special commander's ability, the ability to charge up an extra airstrike, is perhaps the least valuable. Maybe. I haven't fully committed to that take yet, but I'm forming a bit of an opinion on it in that we're typically using these airstrikes on cooldown. So the ability to charge up a 4th one on Provinciën or say Howden Leg Mod build doesn't actually help us in these situations here where we're so close to the enemy that we're often just dropping as they reload. We don't have time to actually charge up that fourth one. It's the opportunity to charge it up once you're done with the flank that you're on, or perhaps you don't have as much spotting on your flank. That is a valid reason to charge up more as well. And if we compare it to, say, Howden Leg Mod, which also gives you an extra charge, the reason I think that's more impactful, let alone the reload, but just the extra squad that you can charge up initially, is that you're typically taking some time out of spawn to get into position before you can use any of your bombs. So it's already allowing you to charge up an extra strike, where with the special commander, you still have to be in the fight for quite a while to get those 50 bomb hits. And by the time you do have it charged up and you have that option to actually reload into an extra strike, well, you're already in the fight, right? I'm not sure if that's exactly the take I want to stick by yet. It's just an opinion that I'm in the process of forming. It's only been like 2 days that I've managed to play around with this special commander. The other reason, of course, that Howden Leg Mod is so good is that it gives a 25% reload buff to your airstrikes, which is substantial. And that's why I think the other two buffs this special commander give are just a little bit better. Every 50,000 damage you deal gives you a nice 2% or thereabouts 2% buff to your damage output, as well as on a Witherer, you get a 15% reload on your airstrike and 10% reload on your main guns. Those two are a little bit more impactful than that extra charge, or at least that's my take for now. I may change it. I reserve the right to change that take, but for now, that is my opinion on it. A very strong special commander with, unfortunately, the ability to buff potentially the least fun portion of these ships, at least to fight, right? I think playing these ships, it can be kind of hilarious to be that gremlin dropping airstrikes on people, smashing people over islands. But to fight it is not the most fun, I think. So, unfortunate that we see this commander buffing that side of the ship. I will try it out on the Groningen, for example. I did say I wanted to do that, and I think I'll try to get onto that this week. I think that'll be interesting to see what a Withered can do. 10% extra DPM Groningen sounds hilarious, so I have to try that out. Bombs dropping on Picardy here. You're going to see the alpha damage yet again. He's not dodging. It's game over. He's probably in a bit of a go next mood at the moment. I don't blame him. So maybe not the most impressive drop, but the damage output is certainly there when you're using these Provincian drops. It's a good ship with an unfortunate monetization method. And given Wargaming at least saying that they're going to be taking a look at the way they're monetizing their game and how they're releasing ships, maybe we can have a little bit of hope around these Dockyard ships coming back, and not just for, well, like 750 Canadian dollars. At least to guarantee the drop. I know some people will get lucky and get it in their first couple of crates. I understand, but from my perspective, making content on the game, giving people advice, that kind of thing, I have to just assume you're going to be unlucky, right? I have to just take it as the guaranteed drop. When is Wargaming guaranteed to give this ship for you? How much money do you have to spend to guarantee you get it? And that is that 550 US or thereabouts. 150,000 doubloons for this ship. Kind of wild. Unfortunate, but it's an interesting ship still. Hopefully it'll come back another time for a more reasonable method. That would be the best result here. And as for the build that I was running here on the Provinciën, I swapped between a couple of them. One of them a little more damage focused, taking things like heavy HE, but that nerfs our concealment. That's one of the nice benefits as well to these standard ships. Actually, Jarsfeld here, you get DD guns. So it means you actually don't receive a concealment penalty when using heavy HE and sap shells. That 15% detection nerf to your ship means it doesn't apply when you have smaller than 149mm guns. Here with Provinciën, though, with 152s, we do have to contend with that. So I actually also tried a build where I swapped out Demo and Heavy HE for full AA. Can be useful given how many of these early access Jarsfelds I was seeing. Can be nice to buff this AA. I really did enjoy having the extra range and really solid damage on this AA. It's very powerful for a tier 8 cruiser. And we get a heal on this one too, so of course that's why we're taking things like Superintendent. This one here, Witherer, is going to be the most impactful. Didn't manage to proc it in this one, unfortunately, but we'll get that in the future for sure. that extra reload would be insane, as well as this extra damage on 50,000 damage done. Shouldn't be too hard to at least proc once or twice in a game, and is a nice buff. This last one, again, I'm a little conflicted. I see how it can be insane, but I just think oftentimes I'm just using the DPM of these airstrikes anyway, so I'm usually not charging an extra one up. Unless, of course, it's mid-game or towards the late game. We've finished on our flank, and we're going to deal with the enemy team on the other side of the map. And then it would be quite useful to have an insane Alpha Strike charged up. Might have to try that with Howden, get the 4 Airstrike build. That sounds just absolutely ridiculous. As for equipment here on this ship, I will say you could run propulsion mod. I was running Airstrike mod, but I did try a couple. If you run propulsion mod and then focus more on these main guns, you can do a lot of good work with them, and you're much more maneuverable then. And that's really, really helpful. Combined with the engine boost, you can do a little bit of speed juking with this ship. It is a light cruiser, but it's a light cruiser with some okay armor. 27 on the deck here, 25 means that you're not getting overmatched by quite as many ships, like battle cruisers, for example, probably aren't going to be getting through you, at least up to a certain caliber, right? They'd have to have 380s, I guess, to get through here, which at tier 8, you're not going to see necessarily quite as much, as well as a big superstructure, but you're relatively thin as well. Maneuverability-wise, if you take propulsion mod, it's not too bad. Having a heal, though, is just the best here. Tier 8 cruisers without heals, man, it is tough out there. I see you guys trying to grind it. That is painful. That is painful. If Wargaming maybe would give at least one heal to some of these tier 8 cruisers, that would go a long way to making them much more comfortable. Provinciën here, having those heals is so nice. It's just a nice luxury to have. And they have that fast cooldown timer, 38 seconds, means that you can come back from quite a bit of damage relatively quickly too. In the armor here, we see in the featured tab, this is where these finest hour containers are. I believe these are only available for this update 14.1, so something to keep in mind, as well as they do drop 2 collection pieces alongside a chance, 1% chance for Provinciën here. So if you're looking to complete this collection, you do get at least 2 tokens from it towards that special commander. But if you're just here for the Provinciën, yeah, just know it's the 150th container, man. That's a long ways away. That's a really, really long ways away. And again, just to reiterate, if you're looking to get this commander out of these tokens, remember, every time that this mission comes up, you have to manually go in here and actually activate it. You have to click through all of this manually. The mission chain won't happen automatically. You have to do this to even unlock that first mission. And then once you're done that one, next time you got to go to this one once it unlocks, of course. So it's one of those events, much like Late Golf. I'm critical of this one as well, Wargaming, if you're listening. Just have the missions happen automatically. Just have them automatically show up in our combat missions tab. That way nobody misses out on it. I don't know why you would do it otherwise. I can't think of a good reason why it would be forcing you to go through all those clicks. It feels like friction, you know? When you sign up to streaming services online, right? You get in real quick. They make it so there's no friction in creating an account. But when you want to leave, when you want to cancel your 1 month of free access, suddenly there's a lot of friction, right? It's difficult to cancel all of a sudden. Why is there so much friction here to get into these missions, Wargaming? I would like you guys to take a look at that too, if we're looking at monetization methods. As for Provinciën here, yeah, pretty disappointing in that it's so expensive to guaranteed get this ship. I wish Wargaming would have these ships available outside of gambling events. Sure, put them in crates. I don't care if they're in crates, to be honest with you, as long as there's a way to guaranteed get this ship outside of them. And I'm sorry, but I do not count 150 containers as a way to guaranteed get it. Yes, technically you will, but 750 Canadian dollars, or like 550 US, somewhere around there, 150,000 doubloons. You can figure out what that is in your own currency. That doesn't count, right? Like, surely we can have a tier 8 ship for less than that. Like a standard tier 8 premium's what, like $60 US? Come on, man. We can do better than that, Wargaming, surely. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. and have a great rest of your day. Make sure you check out Malta. Again, links down below in the description. Go check out his video on this thing with the new commander. It's wild. Definitely worth a watch.